Santeria is a system of beliefs that merges aspects of Yoruba mythology, which were brought to the New World by Yoruba slaves, with Christianity and indigenous American traditions. The slaves carried with them various religious customs, including a trance system for communicating with their ancestors and deities, animal sacrifice, and sacred drumming and dance practices. The need to preserve their traditions and belief systems in a hostile cultural environment prompted slaves in Cuba, starting from as early as 1515, to merge with their customs with aspects of Roman Catholicism. This religious tradition evolved into what we now recognize as Santeria. According to Ernesto Pichardo, who founded the Church of Lukumi Babalu I and who wrote the book Santeria in Contemporary Cuba, the colonial period from the standpoint of African slaves may be defined as a time of perseverance. Their world quickly changed. Tribal kings and their families, politicians, business and community leaders were all enslaved and taken to a foreign region of the world. Religious leaders, their relatives, and their followers were now slaves. Colonial laws criminalized their religion. They were forced to become baptized and worship a god their ancestors had not known, who was surrounded by a pantheon of saints. The early concerns during this necessitated a need for individual survival under harsh plantation conditions. A sense of hope was sustaining the internal essence of what today is called Santeria, a misnomer for the indigenous religion of the Lukumi people of Nigeria. In the heart of their homeland, they had a complex political and social order. They were a sedentary, hoe-farming cultural group with specialized labor. Their religion, based on the worship of nature, was renamed and documented by their masters. Santeria, a pejorative term that characterizes deviant Catholic forms of worshiping saints, has become a common name for the religion. The term Santeria is used to describe a priest or priestess. The traditional term Olarisha is an extension of the deities. The Orishas became known as the saints and image of the Catholic pantheon. In order to preserve and shield their traditional beliefs, the Lukumi people synchronized their Orishas with Roman Catholic saints. Spanish colonial planters who saw their African slaves celebrating on saints' days did not know that they were actually performing rituals related to Orishas, and assumed that they were showing more interest in Catholic saints than in Christian God. Hence the origin of the term Santeria. The historical veiling of the relationship between Catholic saints and Orishas is compounded by the fact that the vast majority of Santeros in Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic are also Roman Catholics, have been baptized, and often require initiates to be baptized in Roman Catholicism as well. The spread of Santeria beyond the Spanish-speaking parts of the Caribbean, including to the United States, was catalyzed by the Cuban Revolution of 1959. In 1974, the Church of Lukumi Babalu I became the first Santeria church in the United States to become officially incorporated.
Now we will hear from the expert, Dr. Ruiz.
Thank you, Veronica. It's commonly believed that 75 to 100 million people practice Santeria today. As one of the fastest growing urban religions, Santeria is practiced in communities where strong ties of African and Hispanic cultures exist. Although it still holds roots to its Afro-Latino roots, it's not limited to these people. Thank you, Veronica. When we tried to research this religion and go to the church, we figured out that the religion itself is very secretive. We even looked up in some blogs that Santeros don't like to be interviewed, but rather spread their religion through the word of mouth. People want to consult and find out where they could find out more about this religion. People don't know where to begin. As an aleo, or an outsider, la regla de ocho may be very secretive and hard to begin, but through research and through people, this religion could be learned through the word of mouth.
And we're back.
Thank you, Veronica. As I mentioned before, Santa being very secretive, a lot of people get frustrated with this. In today's society, we live in a society where people want instant gratification. If you need a carpenter, you look in Yellow Pages. If you need to buy a computer, you search in Amazon. More and more Santeros are creating web pages to get their information across their customers. This is something ancestors would never have imagined. Although Santeros have these web pages to create help to seek spiritual guidance, they don't necessarily advertise it to the aellos, as I mentioned before, people like you and me, but rather these websites get spread around within the Santeria community. So if you're a Santero and are looking for spiritual guidance, many of these web pages are available for spiritual guidance. Veronica, as we were mentioning before, these Santeros are expanding their business more and more by using internet to help people face obstacles. In Santeria, these guidance are called consultas. The consultas usually take place with a spiritual guider in Santeria and involve the cowrie shells and ebo, which means sacrifice. These consultas usually help the person shed light on the problem and the obstacles and help Santeros expand their spiritual belief. Not only do these consultas help Santeros and people in Santeria themselves, but people like you and me, aellos, like we mentioned before, could go to this. This is actually one of their main attractors to the religion that gets people to come, because as I mentioned before, these consultas help people shed light on their obstacles, and in a society where we want instant gratification, these consultas can help us reach this, hence attracting people to this secretive religion.
Hello, I'm Dr. Paz, and I'll be talking to you about drumming and dancing, one of the main rituals of Santeria. Drumming and dancing isn't just for entertainment in Santeria, like we see in society with Cecilia Cruz, who is a famous singer, and she incorporates much of the Santerian, how do you say, vibe, or like, you know what I'm saying, the beat. And so one of the ceremonies they use is the drumming ceremony, and this is called the tambor. And the sacred bata drums are played at this ceremony. These are 3 drums with 2 heads on each drum that are laid horizontally across the legs. You use it and you play both hands, with both hands. And before the ceremony, the drum is charged with the spirit of the drum. This is called anya, which is used only for religious purposes. And we're back. So I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the drums, because it's such an integral part of every ceremony. So drummers must undergo like very intense training and special ceremonies in order to have the right to play the drums. Generally, most traditionally, Santeria uses men only to play the drums. The largest drum is called aya, or the mother drum. The middle-sized drum is called itole, and it carries a conversation with the aya. The aya drum to make a complex rhythm. The smallest drum is the anakululu, and this maintains the underlying beat of the synconated rhythms. For those unfamiliar with African-style drumming, it can be really strange to hear because they reproduce this tonal language of the Yuba people. They speak to the Orshas through this drumming. Okay, so during the ceremony, the Santeros, they will do something called the forebalde, which is a formal gesture where they lay on the floor in front of the drums and they touch their head to the drums. It goes in aya, itole, and then ponikolulu. And seniority is important because the elders must be closest to the drums because they're the most the most wise in the community. So what they'll do also on birthdays as well, the birthday girl or boy will have the honor to stand by the drums as well. So some of the clothing used for these ceremonies are, okay, for the women, they'll wear long skirts, also blouses that cover their shoulders, and mostly long sleeves, And men will wear caps and will wear long pants and a nice dress shirt as well. They're usually white, and they tend to cover their heads. As the women, as I said, the men wear caps, and the women, they wear scarves over their heads. White is a pure kind of feeling to attract negative energy, therefore they will not wear black. And many participants will also wear beads, like elekeles, which are these beads that will help them with communication with the saints. Bracelets and other sacred jewelry will be used as well.